Thank you guys for joining us and for tuning in. I'm Dani, DevRel lead at Hashnode, and today we're joined by the awesome team of Appwrite. See that Aditya is here. Hello, hello. How you doing? Can you hear us?
All good.
Great. So I'll open up the floor so Danny, Haimantika, and Aditya can introduce themselves.
Hello. Hi, everyone. I'm Denny, DevRel at Hashnode as well, and I'm joined by these wonderful folks from Appwrite today as well. Why don't you introduce yourselves?
Go ahead,
So I
Hi.
guess I'll go next. Yeah. Hi, everybody. This is Hemantika Mitra, and even I am a developer advocate, but at Appright, and I'm very happy to be here with the Hashno team and with Aditya, who is at Appright as well, and we're very excited and looking forward to talk about all stuffs AI, Hashnode, and Appright.
Aditya?
Yeah. Just a quick check. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Perfect. It's absolutely lovely being here with everyone. I'm Aditya. I'm also one of our developer advocates. Been at Appride for about 2 years now, almost 2 years. And I'm really excited to be here to talk about AI, about the tech landscape, about communities. I think it's going to be a fun conversation.
Absolutely. Well, just as an introduction, today we are diving deep into the world of AI and how it's changing the game for us developers, indie hackers, businesses, and even content creators. So I want to explore a little bit more about the new features that Appwrite has just built involving AI, and also talk a little bit more about Rix and all its potential that it has for developers. So if you guys are tuning in today, grab a coffee. If you're from YouTube, join us in the comment section. And I think the first point is to discuss the rise of AI in developers' daily lives. So, how do you guys see the rise of AI, and how can we kind of like plug and play, like in a quick way, into AI, bringing AI into our, let's say, productivity or building mode, or how can we integrate AI in a simple manner as developers?
Hemantika, do you want to go on that first?
Yeah, definitely. So AI is a topic that I did go I would say I did read about it and work with it during my college time a bit. And now, since it's again on the rise, I do try out different tools. And I would say, as a developer and even as a content creator at times, these AI tools are pretty helpful not only to me, or if I see myself as a beginner, I think the initial base that it provides for the ideation phase, which is the most difficult part. And I like to write, but at times I do face a lot of writer block. And I would say that if I didn't have Chat GPT or similar tools to my disposal, I would be stuck there forever and not have any cool ideas. So I definitely think that these tools are there, and it can help us a lot. I There's a bit of controversy if it can replace us. I don't think it can, but it can be a good catalyst at least, or a motivator, or the first initial step to help us get started with the work. So yeah, that's my 2 cents about AI tools and AI.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I would say I feel the same way at times about ChatGPT and generating ideas, especially because sometimes I see that I can have plenty of ideas, but no clear path on how to get them done. And I can see, like, okay, let me paste, like, get a few ideas for either building a new app or an SDK or a smart contract if I'm building something for Web3 or a blog post. And I can get like a full outline from ChatGPT and just go from there. Aditya, how do you feel about it?
I do agree for the most part. I think from my experience with different AI tools so far, one thing I've observed is that current AI tooling is great at reproducing things that have already been done. So areas where there are excessive redundancies, it helps solve quickly. Like for example, you know, if you need something, the it's good at that. The moment there's a fresh new problem, it might, like for abstract ideas, it might have something to discuss. Solutions though, we're a little further away from there yet. And so on that front, what I've experienced, at least, it's good to discuss with, at least, when you're talking about, like, once you can break down the steps to a solution to a point where there's small reproducible steps, at that point it's helpful. But you do need to rely on your own experiences and learning and so on as well. It it doesn't fully replace yet. It's got some time to go for that.
Danny, how would you advise developers to plug and play? Like, what are the top tools that you recommend for developers to plug and play into their daily, into a, like, say, a daily basis mode to get started using AI?
There's plenty of tools for developers and all kinds of developers, whether it's software engineers doing pure development or even DevRels as well, creating also content. So we've talked already about ChatGPT, for example. There's Midjourney, there's RuneScape, got released RuneScape IA, I think, not to be confused with the game RuneScape. There's also Rix as well, who greatly helps for beginner developers, for example, and experts alike. So it depends on not only the level of the person using AI, but also the goals. I think Aditya mentioned this as well. The AI already knows how to do things that we've kind of thought of how to do to the AI, but coming up with the newer things and being creative and all other aspects of human intelligence and creativity is up to us to further enhance using AI. So, for example, let's say I'm trying to come up with a routine app in the morning. I go to Rix.chat, for example, right, or ChatGPT or whatever I am using, and whatever steps it would give me back on creating, you don't necessarily use those, but you make sure that you take inspiration from it and then you further develop the app or the system that you're using. So you're not just copy pasting everything, but you're using AI to guide you into the right direction. And for that, again, you need to know how to talk to the AI. You need to know what kind of prompts you need to be using, and all of those interesting things.
Nice. And even in a touch base in the point about Rix that you just leveraged, Rix is really great in a way that developers can leverage AI in Rix itself to a next level of productivity and building, in terms that it can be used for, let's say, smart code generation, as Rix can be used as a way for you to understand the high level requirements of a project and generate code snippets, saving developers a lot of time. And also, one point that I really like to recommend and advise developers to use is to use Rix as a mentor. So, kind of like, let's imagine that you are learning about Hugging Face or about Python itself. So, you can use Rix to understand best practices. What are the next steps that you need to take to understand a particular code snippet, code optimization, and kind of like have a step by step journey into your learning process. Um, so there are many ways that we developers can use Rix and, let's say, AI tools in general for that. And next up, I would love to know about you guys from Appwrite. What are the tools and AI tools that you guys have built into Appwrite's tech stack, leveraging AI?
That's a great question, and it's very good timing as well. Right, Amanda?
Go ahead. Go ahead. Come on. Don't let
Yeah,
us
yeah.
get the FOMO.
The good thing is that and anything we talk about, it's already visible on GitHub. So perks of being at an open source company for sure. Um, we are working on assistive tooling for our community. So release or so on that we have coming out very very soon. There's going to be a new feature that helps Appwrite developers learn about Appwrite, about working with different services on the go while working with their Appwrite instance. It is an AI assistant that it's we've already built this out. It's available, visible on GitHub at github.com/appwrite/assistant. Um, we have used our entire documentation, converted that into embeddings, and we're using um, I believe we're using Chat GPT or GPT 3.5 at the moment for this. But definitely we do expect this to help our developers interact far in a more immersive manner with our documentation and get insights to their questions while working itself, rather than having to move away from their projects and their tools while building.
That's awesome.
So
That's really, really cool.
people will get to see that very very soon, um,
Nice. Any
because
spoilers
like
on when?
that, that's a but
A
very soon.
pressure question. Okay. We have a question here in the comments. And Danny or Hymantika, how do you think AI can be useful in debugging?
Oh,
Do you
that's
want
a
to go
tricky
first?
question.
I like this question.
Yeah, I would say that AI has become an integral part of my development life right now. You'll often find me quarreling with AI, asking that, okay, this is not what I asked, this is what I'm supposed to do. I guess, like Denny and even Aditya mentioned, that we need to give some right direction to the, I would say, to the model before we can get the right answers. But it wouldn't give us the exact answers like Stack Overflow. But I would say it can at least show us the direction to it. I did try some of my code, and it did tell me that maybe you can try importing this library, or maybe you can try the alternative ways. But it didn't hit the right spot for me, but it definitely helped me think about how I can solve it. So I would say it's there, very much there, but not exactly right there.
Awesome. Uh, let's see.
Just one thing to add there. I think one thing I've been trying out a little more is, for some of the work I do in the .NET ecosystem, especially when I'm trying to work with and understand other open source projects and what they're trying to achieve. I've been using some tooling to help understand more than trying to solve a certain problem, but to learn about what's happening already. And one tool I've been using more and more is Copilot Chat, which essentially brings Copilot as a chat interface into Visual Studio. It's also there for code. I believe I've been mainly using this in Visual Studio IDE, and it's been especially handy to understand what's happening at the moment as well, rather than just trying to solve a certain problem. And I think that's actually a great use case, because if tools of these sort can help you break down what is being achieved by a certain functional piece of code at the moment, I think it makes debugging a far more clearer process, especially when you're collaborating and working with other people who may have built software rather than just trying to debug your own code. So that's been an especially handy use case for me.
That's really interesting. I don't think I have used Copilot yet, even though I keep reading about it all over. But it's definitely in my plans, and especially now that I'm building way more side projects. And after you saying that, I'll definitely give it a try. Danny, you have something to add?
Yeah, it was a good point that you guys made. I just quickly wanted to jump in and say also, for example, to answer the question on how AI can be useful for debugging, for example, is first of all, you spend a lot of times. I think it was around, there was a study back in 2020 that about 70% of developers' times is spent on debugging and looking at the bugs where they are and finding the right solutions as well. So one thing where AI can help, for example, Rix, is that it scouts the whole of the internet. It's up to date. It scouts and looks for the document through the documentations as well. So let's say this is a couple of years ago when you had to go through Stack Overflow, look at all the questions. Maybe the question wasn't even answered, or the question was asked and then the reply usually was like, found out how to fix the bug, bye bye, and then you're not learning from that as well. So that used to happen to me a lot. So that's one of the things I would say. It's the time you've spent on debugging that reduces on looking go through things, reading documentation. It's much quicker, and then you can resume with the coding session as well. That's the most important aspect, I think. Being able to reduce the time looking through bugs, and then focusing on the actual coding and developing of the app or product or whatever you're doing. So AI is definitely helpful, but like Aditya also mentioned, it's really up to you as well to make sure you ask the right questions and how you phrase them
Yeah,
as well. Because I think the point of prompt engineering is a silly thing, but it's really like being able to, like, if you know how to Google things, us developers, we're
I
constantly
agree.
Googling. Yeah, and we have this habit of telling people just Google it. But just Google it is not enough, because there's so many things you can do with Google, right? You can search specific dates between specific ranges, you
Yeah.
can search between specific websites. And the same with AI. Don't just ask, like, don't just go, here's my code, find the bug, but be very specific. The more
That's never
specific you
gonna
are,
work. Yeah.
yeah, because then you'll be gone for hours. So it's like we developers and software engineers will like to break down our tasks into smaller steps. Do the same within the AI you're using. Give it small sections, and little by little, that's how you actually fix the whole thing. So yes, AI is definitely helpful, but again, please make sure that you kind of learn a little bit on how to use it, how to phrase the questions, because then you also reduce the time on spending chatting with a robot, so to speak. Also, be nice. You never know when AI takes over. Say please, say thank you, and all of that stuff. Just to be sure, you never know.
I believe in Skynet. I believe in Skynet. Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. I think there was an article from Google that around 70% of people say please and thank you to Google.
I'm one of those.
I do as well. I have a Google Home or whatever it's called, hub at the
Yeah, yeah,
background.
yeah.
I say thank you and please all the time. I'm just being careful. You never know. Just being
Okay,
careful.
okay, 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 okay. Google pleaser. We have another question over here. Um, do you think AI is a trend like Web3, or will it stay? I personally don't think even Web3 was a trend. It's still being built. Um, and I'm one of the people still building smart contracts on it and still building applications on it. So I don't think it was a trend. It was just kind of like a lot of people focused a lot on the money making kind of side of things instead of the building side of things. And I think right now AI is being still built as well, like a lot of tools being leveraged, and a lot of tools kind of like complementing us in terms of productivity and so on. So I think we'll keep seeing more and more of that. What do you guys think?
It's always a very interesting discussion here, because I think whether it's AI or Web3, technical technology, it's going to continue. It's going to happen. There is basis for it, right? It's the brand of it that evolves and grows from time to time. Like, because I remember even with Web3, so while I didn't immerse myself in Web3 particularly, I remember sitting and mining Monero back in 2016, or trying to research what IBM was trying to do with Hyperledger and uh, private blockchains. And I think the technology is fascinating. There is potential to it. There are use cases to it, right? Um, if we talk about how noise, it definitely has to do with how brands are being grown and what agendas are behind growing certain brands. But the technologists are there, the builders are there. In fact, the hype going away, honestly, from these is a good thing for them, because then the people who are actually building these technologies can work. There is far less clutter, there's far less unnecessary noise around. So I think even for Web3, what's happened to Web3 with hype shifting away is probably the healthiest thing that could have happened for the space. And if that is something we look at AI as well, the research is going to, investment is going to continue, and these technologies are here to stay anyway. The one thing I do hope a lot about is I hope there's more policy about them as we go forward. That's good.
Absolutely.
That's going to be a challenge.
But even the wasn't it the US government that tried to implement some kind of policy and laws around AI recently?
That
I think it was
there have
Sam
been
Altman
increasing
started that, right?
discussions. Yes, there have been increasing discussions,
And
especially
especially
around
with things
data
like,
protection and ownership within that space.
Go ahead, how you were saying?
I was saying that especially with things like where the say things which are completely wrong, and the can, can give a lot of wrong information to people, and if
Mhm.
we tend to trust it blindly, it can. So we need to be very wise while using AI as well. We need to use our human brain before trusting AI completely.
I fully agree. What
Yep.
do you
I
think,
like
Dan?
that. Yeah, human brain, absolutely. Um, I do think that I do agree with what Ajay especially was saying. I believed at first that Web3 also was hype, but it's more the NFTs and kind of the scammy things that we had going on there. Web3 is absolutely not dying. If anything, it's going up. I have a lot of friends who are visiting Europe for all the Web3 events, for example. It's just only going up. The tech is there, the tech is improving. Same with AI. I do believe that at the beginning when ChatGPT was released, that it was huge, it was big. Oh my God, it can answer anything. And then after a while, you do understand, well, as developers, I suppose, or if you do your research, how it works, and then you kind of get into the whole rabbit hole of AI as well, and then you start realizing this can, if properly used and used with potential, push humanity to a much higher heights. Not in terms of we will discover wonders, but more like productivity, health as well. There's been a lot of research shown that I think it
Yeah.
was in Israel, if I'm not mistaken, that a hospital is using AI to discover rare diseases faster, for example, stuff like that, where we can help humanity in ways that we are not really talking about as of now, because everything's like, oh, top 5 AIs for making 10K a month. Like, that's all noise.
Yeah.
Ignore that and focus
Yep.
on the bigger aspects. So yeah, AI is absolutely staying. It's only gonna improve. There's only investments, money running into it as well, which is good because we can then, as developers, improve it as well. It's not only gonna help us as developers, but just humanity in general. There's my sister is an architect, for example. Her company now uses AI to quickly model buildings if there's an error in there, for example, with plumbing, I'm just mentioning, or the roof is collapsing. AI finds those errors much quicker, and they use, interestingly enough, they use the LiDAR scanners of iPhones to scan the buildings, and then AI gives probabilities where an error will occur. So, like whatever is collapsing the balcony, right, and then fix those. So it's not only developments. AI and Web3 is absolutely staying, and it's just gonna keep pushing and pushing and pushing. And it's up to us as developers, of course, to keep it as morally clean and as beneficial for everyone, not just us. But yeah, great question though. Good question.
I have another great question here that I've selected in the audience. And how can developers use AI to improve or upskill their careers? Who wants to go first?
I'll let
I didn't.
Aditya go as always. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Um, yeah, like I think I'll probably return to the experience I was talking about earlier with Copilot Chat. Like for me, as I talk about upskilling, I'm trying to use this to learn and understand more and more about how people are implementing. That in its process has helped me gain insights to patterns and tools and structures that I would never have thought about for my own code. So it's definitely been a big assist for me to understand different pieces of open source software, about different patterns and different languages as well. Because one thing I definitely use this across is to help understand programming languages that I'm not used to. I think one example of that for me was with one of Appwrite's own projects, actually, and that was generator. So even after I joined, and lately, as I've been spending more and more time around our SDKs, we use PHP and Twig templates to generate our SDKs from an open API specification. So I've been using some tooling of this sort to help better understand everything is structured and how these templates have been made, to understand what needs to be fixed, what is trying to achieve what, and so on. And so um, it's been a great learning assist to be able to work with tools and languages that I may not have had proficiency with, especially as I go on to contribute to code that I may not have understood as well as I do now. One thing that I will say to keep in mind is that, especially if you're working with code and other people's code, fortunately for us, we are open source. We do have licensing that can allow this. Please do not try this on code bases mission critical or intentionally secure, and you may not be permitted to use these on. But for sure, I think it's been really helpful to help learn from a lot of other people's work and so on. That's one thing I've been doing a lot with AI particularly.
That's fair. That's fair. Hi, do you have something to add?
Yeah, I was going to mention what Aditya just talked about. Other than that, I would say that it also helps you in proofreading your work. So, what I do generally is, let's say, if I'm writing a piece of content, I go to my the choice of AI tooling, and I ask that, what do you think about this? Is there a better way to go around, or can I write it? Can you reframe it better for me? But also, it's very important to note that while we are doing it, be it for code or content or anything that is tech or non-tech related, that we shouldn't be just copying and pasting it. It's good to take inspiration from, but just to take the first idea is something that I would ask or say or advise, especially for beginners, because if we are very dependent on AI tools, that might also make us lazy, which I feel personally. But other than that, I would say that it has helped me in proofreading my work and basically honed my skills. So that's something I believe that developers and non-developers, anybody can use AI toolings for.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, I have a tricky question coming up here.
Oh no.
And I know you guys will find it tricky too, but we had some comments in the audience also asking this to come up. And is it recommended to expose AI to your database? What do you guys think? I would say,
So
go ahead, go ahead.
I think the first thing I would ask back is this your own database? As in, are you the owner or are you working for someone else who owns this database? Because if it's the latter, I just recommend asking them. I wouldn't take that decision on my own. And I
I
think my big question would be if it's self hosted, if it's not a public AI tool, where even as it consumes data and processes it, if you're able to maintain ownership, I'd still be all right about it. But
I
um,
think.
definitely want to read more into policy there as to whether the specific AI tools
Mhm.
have disclaimers and disclosure of how data is consumed and processed. And if it's any public AI tool, I'd keep it away from any database with personal information for sure.
Absolutely. I mean, if it's not a language that was produced by your company and
Yeah.
internally, then the answer is definitely no, because that information will later on be publicly available to anyone who researches about it.
Yeah.
How can someone use AI with Appwrite? Look at that.
This question because I've been doing some work around this lately. And this can be done right now as well, by the way, even aside from the hint Hemantika and I, with the tool we were discussing about earlier on. You can actually use different AI tools with that right now through our functions runtimes. And so I remember a while back I'd worked on a sample for our which we shared on the app, right? Twitter about how you could use LangChain with Apprite's Node.js function runtime, and you could use some of these tools, of course, in conjunction. I know I've played around with OpenAI's APIs, some of Azure AI's APIs through functions and so on. And you could definitely use tools of like this uh, through Apprite's functions offering. That's definitely a good place to look at.
Nice. Are you guys seeing like a rise of different AI applications or projects being built with Appwrite? And if so, like what are the top maybe two or three that you guys like the best recently?
I think more than having it, I know I've been working on a project with a fellow team member which uses Apprite and AI. That quantification is something we could look more into.
I know about the hackathon that we had last time with
Hmm.
Hashnode, and I did see that people are very interested to use Apprite with different AI tools and also APIs. What I saw is typically they are very interested to use Dolly with like the they are interested to generate pictures and then make different apps with it. So I don't recall the name, but I did see an app using that. Plus, even us, like the team, we did a April Fool's prank on building a website with AI and Appwrite, where we were using ChatGPT or GPT-4 API and Dolly API. So yes, I do see that there has been a rise in interest because it's very interesting to try out different AI tools with Appwrite, which is basically a backend as a service. So yes, there has been a rise, but I would say my last favorite project that I remember was from the hackathon with Hashnode.
That's awesome. Even now, I don't know if I mentioned this to you guys or maybe to Tessa, I'm not sure. But even in the past hackathons that we've been having lately, we have been seeing a lot of projects being built with the tech stack of the hackathon and also with app rights. So that's really, really cool. And we see like the developers absolutely loved it.
Yeah,
Okay,
Appwrite is pretty flexible.
yes. One more question about security. That's on you, Danny. To what extent AI tools are secured? I think it's not easy to go and adopt AI in a corporate company which is concerned about data security.
Yeah, I think again going back to Aditya because his responses are so on point. It's that don't just throw in all it's like
Oh,
don't break
your
production.
secured
Yeah,
information.
yeah. Oh, you want to have the list of our members and password? Oh, yeah, sure. What? How can I secure my database of everyone? No, completely no. I think it's up to the companies as well to make sure that everything is secure first and that you don't, so to speak, play around and find out later. Don't throw anything. AI should be, as of now, because it's still so fresh and young, so to speak, be only used to either coming up with things, enhancing your thought processes, finding bugs like we talked about. For beginners, it doesn't need to be experts. For beginners to learn the development journey, etc. But in a corporate world, it's always more difficult because everything is moves much slower as well. Processes move much slower. But I would highly suggest talking to the security team first before you do anything. To what extent is AI secure? Think of AI as not secure at all. For if you're in a corporate world and you are in either one of the positions where you're able to use AI in combination with security of your corporation or company, do not trust so far. Be it plays safe. First of all, talk to your team, talk to the security people as well, because there have been a lot of incidents, a lot of tweets, a lot of news articles where people ask AI questions that are weren't nice for the public, so to speak. Breaches in data have happened as well. So I would say it's up to the company to decide how secure they think it is as well. And then also maybe you are as a company building your own AI. Even then, it's always better to be safe than sorry, in my opinion, of course. But I guess Aditya can add more nuances to this one.
I think one thing also that a lot of people should keep in mind is that, at least today, when we talk about AI tooling, we do often refer to it in the context of generative AI. Just a little reminder that AI, of course, is quite a vast space of like I remember, and this is a case study I always remember a lot, with how Uber and Microsoft Azure collaborated to set up a facial recognition system that helped with driver onboarding for their global systems. And they used Azure, was formerly called the Cognitive Services Suite. It's now Azure AI. And I think they did something very, very interesting there, to simplify onboarding for Uber's drivers all over the world, with check-ins and just with by taking pictures of their faces and so on, and so there are organizations which have been trying to tackle this challenge for a while as well. It can't it's difficult to generalize an answer, right? Because at this point, when we look at different entities with and different organizations in the AI space, because there is very little public policy on this. Each organization has their own terms of service, their own privacy regulations that they're um, sharing, and there is a lot of research that needs to be done into this from both a technology standpoint at this point. So it's difficult, of course, to generalize. And but that being said, there are solutions that have been working, that um, have been adopted as well, and a lot of research is necessary. But for sure, like there are places where AI in existing corporate structures as well.
That's really great. Okay, okay, okay. Next up, what areas would you recommend users to go ballistic? Look at this term, huh? That was a bold term with AI tools. I use it for these areas, writing unit tests, generating memes or captions. I would say it depends on the AI tools. Like I would recommend, for example, Copilot after Aditya's little recommendation here of it that I'll be using. I'll be taking that rec myself. Rix for learning new languages, programming languages, or debugging. Um, and also definitely using it for content creation and social media. So I would say that, yeah, even though we are very much focused on developers here, but also technical writers and content creation, AI is definitely not only for people who are coding, but also for creating content. So using it for video creation, video editing, trend analysis, AI tools in general definitely make it easier for us to create and share content. Even on Hashnode's perspective, for example, if you use Hashnode's AI chatbot, you can use it to generate Twitter threads or Twitter posts or LinkedIn posts from your blog content, and also kind of spread out that knowledge that you have for those areas. But also in social media, kind of like sort through the noise. We were talking about noise a lot here and using it to identify trends, suggest content ideas. I think kind of like getting content ideas based on what's trending right now is definitely very useful, but also even help you shape and sharpen your messaging and your content to reach different target audiences in a more efficient way, which is also something that you can use Hashnode's AI for. And definitely automating repetitive tasks, kind of like generating bullet points, breaking down your content, making your content more concise. So I think those are the areas that I can see like a clear way for you to go ballistic when generating content and also using AI in general. What do you guys think?
I think it's also great for
That
generating
yes.
images. So I write newsletters very often, and I am in need of building, or let's say creating images or creatives for that. And as bad as I am as a designer, so that's where these tools come to help. I just need to type keywords, and it's great at generating images for me. So there's Unsplash, there's even Microsoft Designer. There's I also use it for presentations. I think if there are, other than in this particular live stream, people in the audience who are devrils will know how often we have to do presentations, and being creative is something that's not my forte either. So using tools for that is something that you can use AI for as well. So yeah, those are my top two recommendations.
Aditya, Danny, what are your fave recommendations?
Images I particularly agree on as well, because for using Dolly a lot to generate images which I feel are relevant to my theme and my topic. And this is something I do for my personal newsletter. I think another front I've been trying to use it more and more is for accessibility. So one of my side projects that I've been running for the last 3 months or so is a little alt text generator, which I built using Azure AI, their computer vision offering to get captions for images. That's a project I just put out there. It's actually been doing quite well as well. It's been getting a lot of usage lately. And I like to use it. I use it for my own social media and my blogs to make sure I can get alternate text for my images to help make them more accessible. And I think that's actually quite, that could, that helps with a more healthier internet for all of us. So I think that's one thing that I strongly recommend as well.
Nice. Danny?
Those are all great points. I think if we're speaking from a developer standpoint, we've been talking a lot how developers can use AI from beginners to experts, learning new languages, changing code, analyzing things, building new projects as well. But from a non-developer standpoint, because even though a lot of us or everyone in here is a developer, we are also we like other things. We like music, we like food, whatever, right? Content creation. Me personally, I know everyone has mentioned newsletters. My personal newsletter is always proofread. Recently, me and a friend of mine and his little brother, he built a tweet tweet analyzer. So before he tweets, the AI he built analyzes the tweet to tell him how viral it would go. You can use AI to get you a content calendar. It could be your personal assistant with smaller tags, automations as well. Like Danny mentioned, there's just an endless plethora of things you can do with AI. But me personally, it would be content creation, coming up with ideas, maybe solidifying some ideas I have, for example, a YouTube or a newsletter or even blog posts. I'm not saying use AI for all your content. What I'm saying is use the correct tools, the correct AI in your case, whichever you're trying to produce the content for, whether it's video, audio content. You can use AI for podcasts, for example. If you have a video of 10 minutes, it can split up the correct sections. It can get rid of the us, stop sounds as well. There's just an abundance of things you can do with AI. And I think everyone in here kind of agrees that content creation, writing material, coming up with ideas are the things I would go ballistic on, because nowadays you need to have a personal brand. You need to be online. You need to be sharing your projects, your ideas, your thoughts, because only then can we collectively come to more creative stuff as well. Because if you keep everything to yourself, then nothing is going to happen anyway.
Nice, nice, nice. Okay. We got one more question here, right on time from the audience. And AI for beginners can be like a tutorial hell in the sense of developers will rely on them and will not learn on their own. So how can juniors or beginners use AI in a way that won't hurt their skills?
Very good question.
That's a great question.
Who wants to go first? I
think
can
I
go
can
first.
take
Okay.
it. I'll go after you. Thanks for that.
Okay,
All right.
okay.
Sure. We can play rock paper scissors next time. So it is a great question, because we were hosting a space a week ago as well, and the question also came up: how can especially beginner developers, because nowadays there's a big hype about AI in particular. So how can it help beginner developers get there faster to get to a job, remote work, whatever else, build your project, etc. It's up to you again to double check the sources first of all, and learn how to use AI to supplement your learning, because at the end of the day it can only help you so much. Because if you're not manually literally doing the muscle work of typing out the code, getting frustrated, uh, thinking it's hard, but getting to the higher levels of focus as well, you're not going to get there. So I think it's important for us to also mention to all beginners that yes, it's good to use AI. Absolutely, saves you time, saves you headaches, but it's very, very important to put it aside sometimes and really focus on building your muscle memory, so to speak, getting through the frustrations, finding out the bugs, for example, as well. While you can use AI to improve that too. But eventually, once you get to a level, you will get to a certain point where you will stop relying on AI for everything, because you will have built up the strength to go through things on your own. So you won't need AI as much as you think. But it's very, very important, just to finish up, that beginner developers, make sure if you're just learning, double check the sources, go through documentation yourself, put in the time and the hours to actually become a proper developer, and then you can go ballistic with AI and just level up very, very quickly.
You love the ballistic term now. Can
Yeah,
see
it's
that.
cool. Yeah.
We're all adopting it. Go ahead, Aditya.
I really like the answer that Danny just said. I agree, especially on the part of muscle memory. Like, it's just you have to do the work. There's no way around it. I think another thing that I would add to that is that as as someone who's still new to tech, in the sense that I graduated from university last year. I've been around communities. I've been playing around with code for a while, but I'm still quite young and new within the industry. And I wouldn't use AI for anything that I couldn't reason about myself. And the thing and the reason I say so is because as we look at a lot of AI tooling, and especially generative AI tooling that we're using for questions and answers and interacting with, they are effectively black boxes, right? We They're churning out answers, but we don't know the process of reasoning or logic behind it. And so, if I ask a question that I cannot check or test to see whether the answer is right or wrong, I am putting myself in a very risky position as well as I go ahead and apply any such knowledge or answers. And so unless I have enough know-how or experience to verify, I would not want to use tooling for those until I have learned to do all that work myself. Like for example, when we talk about people practicing and checking and debugging their code, right? Simply leaving it to debug your code is dangerous, because if you do not know how to do that, it might give you answers that are absolutely incorrect, but you have no idea why. And that's just a risky position for you, right? Because you could end up spending in far more time than you actually need to trying to get to an answer by hit and trial rather than actually reasoning through it yourself. So unless if you're learning a certain concept, if you're learning a new language, and unless you can solve those problems yourself, please do not leave them to AI to solve, at least for the time being.
Absolutely. I can say, like, even from Hashnode's perspective around Rix itself, one very good point and benefit from Rix is that all the information on Rix is up to date, and it also displays all the source that is pulling information from. So you can go in there and double check and verify. So you're not kind of like going as you would go in ChatGPT, kind of like blindly. So let me see if this will work, or let me see if this is accurate and it's real. But you can actually kind of like have that information instantly without having to browse through like a thousand Stack Overflow pages, and also have like, okay, I have these five sources, they are reliable and have been kind of like double checked by other users, and I can trust on this. But yes, if you don't have access to that, and of course you do have access to Rix as it's free and open to everyone, but let's say you wouldn't, then I would be like around the same page, like cannot trust it blindly. And on another hand, you can also use it, like we mentioned in a few, maybe 10 minutes ago, uh, as a teacher and as a tutor, right? So kind of like, okay, want to start writing code in, I don't know, TypeScript. So give me step one, two, three, and while we are going through this way, so kind of like have everything tiled down and kind of like uh, in a very clean and easy way for us to understand and start applying that code ourselves and understanding why that works the way it works. Otherwise, it kind of like is purposeless, just reading through things and not being able to apply that, right? Hi, and Danny, you want to go next?
I think we have pretty much covered all the things, and there's not much to add.
Okay, okay,
Yeah.
okay. Let me see if we have any other questions. Thinking, no, maybe on Twitter. But okay, well, I think we can close the stream now. I think we are a little bit over time, and sorry for that, guys. Sorry, hope not to be taking too much of your time. But yes, thank you guys for joining Danny and I really enjoy having this conversation and opening up the floor for us to discuss and have a little spoiler and a FOMO around the new AI tools by Appwrite. And yes, was a great conversation and super fun. Thank you.
Thank
Thanks a
you.
lot for
Thank you.
having us.
All right. Thank you all for tuning in, watching, and sending great questions to add to this conversation. And looking forward to seeing you guys in our next Hashnode interviews and our next chat. Thank you guys. And I'll be closing the stream right now. Bye.